And I would like to ask you to join us in the main hall because we are just about to start our last plenary session. So please, if you would like to join us, join this last session centered on Ukraine, please come inside because we are just about to start.
All-male panel and all-female panel.
But that's how Ukraine will look like, no? Very female, so...
So, as I said, our last plenary session will be centered on Ukraine. We will explore how to mobilize human capital, what is the role of local actors, and how can Ukraine use its path to join in the EU to make much-needed reforms. I'm happy to hand the chair to or the word to the chair of this panel, who is Andrea Najvirtová from People in Peril, Slovakia. So, Andrea, it's in your hands.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you very much. I have the pleasure to moderate today's last plenary hall meeting. Which is a bit difficult after Hugo Slim's presentation, but we will try our best. The topic is important and interesting, so I hope we will have an interesting discussion also with your questions. In today's plenary females plenary panel, female only, so it's balancing the male only panel. We have representatives from Ukraine, from the EU, and from Poland, representing the government, civil society, and international partners. And we will be looking at where we stand with recovery efforts now, as it is already the fourth year of recovery efforts, while Ukraine is still in a full-scale war, still facing aggressions and human losses. We will look also into how the new geopolitical context impacted recovery efforts. We will also we need to reflect on the changed setting where we experience shrinking of space for civil societies or civil society organizations, where a humanitarian sector and development cooperation undergo major shifts, major changes. Explore also the role of civil society with the focus of local civil society, and see how we can partner to deliver best sustainable and effective results for Ukraine. So I have the pleasure to welcome first Ms. Yuliia Podyuk, Deputy Director of the Department for the Implementation of the Regional Development Program at the Ministry of Development of Communities and Territories of Ukraine, a ministry leading efforts on development, regional development, local governance, and reconstruction efforts. Ms. Yuliia Podyuk will understands English well, but she will talk in Ukrainian. So we have a colleague from People in Need, Elena, who will help with interpretation. We also welcome a representative of an innovative Ukrainian civil society organization, Liudmyla Kryzhanovska, director of the Promprylad Foundation, an organization driving community-based innovation and local recovery. For the EU Commission, I welcome Ms. Elena Višnar Malinovská, Deputy Director and Head of Unit at the European Commission's Ukraine Service, responsible for the reconstruction of Ukraine and Ukraine's path to EU accession. And last but not least, for Poland, Ms. Justyna Janiszewska, in her second panel already today, CEO, President of the Management Board of the Solidarity Fund PL, which has been supporting Ukraine through development cooperation, local governance initiatives, as well as humanitarian aid. We will have approximately 40 minutes for discussions, and after that I will open the floor again for questions, preferably directly from the public, but you can also use Slido. So I would like to start with assessment where we stand with Ukraine's recovery today. It's actually a topic on each Ambrela Development Forum. In some countries, we hear voices of fatigue, of Ukraine fatigue. We have, as I mentioned, a very changed geopolitical context and a very changed perception of the role of civil society organizations, while war is still going on, while attacks are still going on. So I would like to focus on what has changed in the Ukraine recovery discussion and implementation in the past year. So I would like to start with you, Ms. Podyuk, from the Ministry for Development of Communities and Territories of Ukraine. What has your ministry undertaken in the past year? How has it changed? Has it changed your work in the past year? How are you adapting to the fact that the war is still going on? And do you feel any donor fatigue? Thank you.
Дякую за такі запитання. Так, воно дуже зараз актуальне і цікаве. І це правда, що зараз політика регіональна в країні формується, враховуючи ті виклики, які в нас є, це безпекові загрози, постійні обстріли.
Thank you. This is a very important question. Thanks for raising it. And the politics in the recovery of Ukraine is definitely based on the issues and we are facing in Ukraine. And definitely the security issue is one of the great importance.
Так, були зміни і минулого року, і ці зміни впроваджуються і зараз. В політиці відновлення і регіонального розвитку наразі ми зосереджуємося на двох напрямках, щоб врахувати всі вимоги, які потребує безпекова ситуація.
Definitely, we had changes in recovery and regional development, and the focus is done on two main directions.
Перше, це безумовна зміна законодавчої бази, спрямована на створення системного планового підходу в регіональній політиці.
So the first change is the change of legislative base for the systemic approach in the politics.
Це розроблення державних, регіональних і місцевих стратегій регіонального розвитку.
This is also the development of the state regional strategies of the regional development.
Пов'язаних, безумовно, з відновленням і з врахуванням функціональних типів територій і територій відновлення.
And this is linked also to the development of the territories and regional territories.
Це та політика, яка спрямована на стабільне, подальше, сплановане відновлення нашої країни.
This is the politics which has the direction to the planned and stable development.
Це регіональна політика, яка іде паралельно з реформою публічних інвестицій, яка зараз здійснюється в нашій країні.
This is the politics which goes in parallel with the reform.
Де всі фінансові програми, які фінансуються за рахунок державних і міжнародних коштів, всі проекти мають відповідати стратегічним документам на державному, регіональному та місцевому рівні.
This is the financial programs financed by international funding. Можете повторити останнє?
Всі проекти і програми мають відповідати
And the
стратегічним
projects and
документам.
all the projects and all the programs should be in line with the strategic documents.
З другої сторони, як паралельний процес – це створення механізмів оперативного реагування на потреби громад, які знаходяться в прифронтовій зоні.
And from the other hand, we need to focus also on the programs to support the gramadas, the communities which are based in the frontline areas.
Саме створення механізмів оперативного реагування за допомогою держави, громадських організацій, благодійних організацій є виходом з такої ситуації, необхідності швидко діяти.
So the mechanisms of the cooperation with the agencies, with the partners to react on these issues, it's very important.
Це те, що було змінено за останній рік і впроваджено як нові підходи.
So those are the main changes which were taking place over the last year, and we are implementing the new approaches.
Щодо втоми донорів.
As for the donors fatigue,
Я хочу сказати, що ті партнери міжнародні, які працювали з нами відразу після повномасштабного вторгнення і наразі залишаються партнерами, з якими ми розвиваємо, продовжуємо розвивати стосунки.
I would like to highlight the fact that those partners and donors with whom we were cooperating since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we still are working with them and they are still supporting us.
І ми щиро вдячні, і наше міністерство вдячно цим партнерам за їх стабільну підтримку. І з свого боку ми зобов'язуємося, щоб ця підтримка і ці інвестиції були прозорими і підзвітними.
So we are still grateful for the donors who are supporting us and for the partners who are supporting us. And from our side, we are doing our best to ensure that this support is transparent and we are accountable for this assistance.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Elena Višnar Malinovská for the EU perspective, as EU is one of the main actors in driving, in supporting Ukraine's recovery. So I was wondering also, how has your work changed in the past year with the changing geopolitical shifts, changing donor landscape, changing mood in the capitals of European member states?
Well, thank you very much. I'm super happy to be here. And first of all, I'll start that I am a risk manager by my DNA, and that's probably what you need to be in the seat where I'm sitting. Before I dealt with climate emergency, and then I moved to Ukraine service. You are very right to say that things are changing. We sometimes feel like being on a swing. First of all, with the American disengagement and then re-engagement, we have seen the Oval Office exchange of opinions, then the Alaska Summit, and again the United Nations General Assembly with a much more positive statements from the American leadership. At the same time, we have seen the American assistance being first cut and reviewed and then remain in some areas. But what we have seen, we lost a lot in areas that do affect democracy, governance, values, human rights. We have also seen that nobody has counted on war to take so long. So mind you that even the International Monetary Fund, when it looked at the macroeconomic prospects of Ukraine, didn't factor in the war, so it changes all. We have seen the military expenses going very much up, mostly this year, because the sort of salaries of personnel, but also the support to families of the missing is, of course, going up. And we see that on the military side, at the beginning, we could count on support in kind by many partners. This is not anymore the case. We are in a situation where Ukraine has to actually buy weapons. So this is all changing, and in this environment, I can still say that we try to combine the short-term relief efforts with also the long-term investment. So let me say the story of what we try to do in the Commission. Well, first of all, we provide budgetary support to Ukraine, and that's very important because this keeps the administration going on. This makes the salaries being paid. This allows the social services to go on, and the state can function. Europe is sending money directly to the Ukraine budget. More than half of the Ukraine budget comes from European Union and its member states. More than 85% of external donors is coming from Europe, and that's very important. But of course, Ukraine doesn't get it for free. Ukraine is asked to pass very painful reforms, and these reforms are important for the state to be a credible member in the future of the European Union. Second, we do already think for the future. We want to invest into schools, hospitals, the new economy. As many of you know, Ukraine has been stagnating economically prior to the war. It didn't have a very diversified economy. So really sort of dreaming about the new economy means not only a little bit of incremental change in economy, it means a completely different economy. And I believe that even the war has affected very much and transformed the sort of mindset as to where Ukraine can go. And I do believe in the startupist culture of Ukrainian people. And finally, what we do support is also the civil society. We have stepped in for support in the media sector. very important, that has been completely derelict now by the US. We stepped in support for election, for municipal, local authorities, for energy support. I mean, you know that the energy systems are bombed almost every night since a couple of weeks. So we try to support purchases of gas, of district heating, but we also invest in people in terms of the projects that build the capacity of civil society organizations, so that they can build a new, I would say, new fabric. A new mindset for the state. And we know that the civil society organizations are very much also providing these state functions. They very much sometimes are embedded in the ministries, in the state authorities, and they try to make the state to function.
Thank you very much for highlighting how your response has changed and reacted to the changing conditions, but you also already mentioned some aspects where you see the role of civil society, which we will discuss also in the second part of the panel. I would now like to move from the macro level to the micro level. Ms. Malinovská, you mentioned the startupist culture, and I'm happy we have a representative of an innovative foundation working also with businesses. So, Ms. Kryzhanovska, you have a very interesting project of turning an industrial site to an innovative hub and for innovation and community transformation. So how have you been balancing this long-term recovery vision with ongoing war, with ongoing uncertainties?
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And I think that the answer for this question is quite simple. We have a very clear theory of change. We started the project before the invasion, and we knew that our final goal is to create the model of the local community transformation, not just in Ukraine, but far beyond. We are bringing together businesses, NGOs, and local authorities. And as a colleague mentioned, sometimes, yes, civic society and businesses are doing some of the functions of local authorities or even on the national level. And we see that NGOs and businesses, they can become the drivers of the local transformations if they are engaged. And we see that this engagement is extremely important. Then we also, from the early beginning of the project, we understood that it's not enough just to bring our effort in economy. So we are focused on the socio-economic development. So we are working a lot with informal education, which means not schools, not universities, but upskilling, reskilling courses and informal courses for business development, for startups, and so on. We are also working a lot with the culture, so we are supporting local artists, we are supporting reading promotion or, books and so on. We are also working a lot with the urban development because it's not just about Promprylad, right? It's not just about to revitalize the space. It's about to do it in the way that it will serve for the community and it will engage community into the city transformation. And also, for sure, we are working with economy. So we are working a lot with innovations. We are trying to bring to Ukraine the expertise which does not exist in the country so far. So we work a lot with Berkeley University, with Copenhagen Institute of Neurocreativity, and other institutions across the world. And but in the same time, I have to mention that even before the invasion, especially IT sector was very strong in Ukraine. That's why now you see, unfortunately, but a lot of innovations in the defense sector, in the military sector, but there are also a lot of projects which are connected to the mining or other things which are very innovative, which are, now transforming the market on the global level. The other thing is that we are not a humanitarian organization, so we've been not working in the humanitarian sector at all. And we've grown a lot during these 4 years. And I will say that it's not just because of the attention to Ukraine, it's sometimes contrary. Because I remember first weeks of the invasion, a lot of our international partners have been trying to convince us to leave the country. And we've been talking with them about support of businesses because we are located in the very western part of the country. So what we've seen on the beginning of the invasion and even now, that businesses are trying to relocate to the safer parts of the country and keep their activities. I very clearly remember the stories of men from Mariupol who came to us, it was second or third week of invasion. Mariupol was already occupied. And he came to us and he told me, Luda, I cannot accept humanitarian support. Help me to restart my business. I have 20 years of entrepreneurial experience. I want to work. I can create jobs in Ukraine, here in Ivano-Frankivsk. So help me to restart my business. So that's why this is our focus. I think that for us, we understand very clearly that that's our decision. We will stay the country, and we will keep developing as we are in, one of the safest regions of Ukraine. So that's why, yes, so we are creating the model of socioeconomic development of the community on the local level, where a lot of stakeholders are engaged to make, these communities stronger and more sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you for showcasing your work and also showing the strength of local community-based driven solutions and entrepreneurship and business creation. Moving to Poland with an idea also to see how we from Central and Eastern Europe can support Ukraine in the recovery efforts. Ms. Justyna Janiszewska, the Polish Solidarity Fund has been implementing projects to address both the humanitarian needs and recovery efforts. So what has been for you the most challenging in the past year, and what have been the highlights?
Yeah, so thank you, and thank you for bearing with us. It's already a full day of the conference, so thank you for staying and listening. So let me start with 2 sentences about who we are. We are kind of the closest to Slovak aid, but there's nothing like a separate agency for development cooperation in Poland. However, we are part of the development system, and we are under direct supervision of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So we're not entirely an NGO. We are a foundation, but kind of GONGO, state-governed foundation. We have our team in Poland working on the Ukrainian programs, but also a separate office registered in Kiev, which is currently employing 26 people. And I'm with the organization for 11 months now. So talking about me, myself, but I also don't see it in our organization, I don't feel any fatigue with supporting Ukraine. And I think this is also our mindset in the organization. I don't think anybody, except maybe in the deepest dreams, thought that this conflict may be resolved quickly. We all assumed that it's going to take time, either the war itself or the whole recovery. So we're not tired with it itself. And what I can see from this perspective, comparing to the past years in the foundation, first of all, we're not doing humanitarian aid anymore. That's not our mandate. That happened in the organization for a couple of years. We don't do that. There's a consensus that there are much better and better equipped organizations to do that in Poland and in the world. Like Polish Humanitarian Organization being partner of this conference, being one of them. And we should concentrate more on what is our mandate, that's development cooperation, especially with the focus on supporting local communities, good governance programs, human rights, etc. So what I would see as highlights first from the last period, there's a couple of topics that we feel strong at. One of them I talked about in the morning session, which is support to veterans at the local level, which is already functioning. We already have 8 functioning centers. Towards the end of the next year, there will be 16 of them, at least, maybe even more, in 4 different regions. And there are also some other topics that we are constantly developing, like the vocational training that we started long before the war started, and firefighters and civic resilience, and we continue our work with local communities and Hrmadas. And in this recent period, not without struggle, but we see how this is kind of, well, snowballing, that might be too big word, but we see that we can scale up in what we are doing, and we see the long-term and sustainable fruits of that work, even in those strained conditions in Ukraine. So that's definitely something that I could put on the positive side. And other thing that I would like to name here as a highlight is ability to act fast if there's a need. And I believe a good example of that is that we started discussing really around April this year with the FPI program, possibility to run a program which is in one leg aimed at children and their families from the frontline regions, to give them retreats to safe situation for a short period of time with additional support and everything. And the other leg is this pro-mental health program for veterans. And already in June, we started implementing it. And we see the fruits of it. So when there's a will on our will and tools on our end, and on the donor side, we can act quickly. And this is something which is really comforting from the management position when you see that this is possible. From the challenges, I don't really want to go into this bigger picture and geopolitical and relationships between Poland and Ukraine, which are still extremely good now, but as you're probably aware, used to be complicated, and we still see implications of that. So I don't want to go to that because I can use whole hour and we'll still not be done. A challenge from my organization's perspective that I see now is really a burnout and poor psychological state of my Ukrainian team. It's really hard to get them to agree that, and they're very brave. And I have to say that all of you who are from Ukraine, you live there, you work there, and all the expats who live in the Ukraine, you're doing a great job, and we should all appreciate it a lot. You know, many of my colleagues from Ukraine, they have their husbands at the front line. They bring up their children on their own, starting day with checking if their relatives and their husbands are still alive and well. They don't sleep many nights because there are alerts on and on, especially in recent weeks, and yet they show up at work. It is all getting complicated, it's all getting difficult. They have the sense of accomplishment, they have a goal. There was this great presentation about relief workers, what drives them, what makes them sustain in this work, and I think they all have that sense of meaning of the work that they are doing, but it's almost 4 years since the full-scale aggression started. So it's starting to have the toll on them. And this is something that definitely me, myself, and other people in the management of our organization, we have to respond to it, to not to lose those people and to give them some sense of relief as well and appreciation for their work. We just cannot expect people who live under difficult circumstances for another year to be as productive and to work all days as we used to do, because they just need to take time for other goals in life and just for some rest and so that's the challenge I see for our organization. Probably that's the reality of many other organizations as well.
Thank you, and I think this deserves an applause and admiration for people in Ukraine and their strength and resilience and how they're coping and how they're managing to have still a functioning state, to do all the work that they do to build their communities. So really big admiration for all that you're doing. I would link the second round of discussion to the role of civil society in the recovery process, and we've heard already some examples of how civil society contributes to recovery, but also in light of the discussions we had today on rethinking the role of each of the actor has in international solidarity and local development, the role of local NGOs, of INGOs, businesses, and international partners. So I was, when I was looking through reports, I did find some information and some reports that not all NGOs, civil society organizations, or community-based organizations feel fully involved in the recovery process. So I would like the different representatives we have here to reflect from their position on how they engage civil society actors, where they see their roles, and maybe where they see the role of local organizations versus international NGOs. So starting with Ms. Podyuk, how do you ensure that the recovery efforts are driven by the needs of local communities? That in the scope of Ukraine, which is big, the needs are big. There's reforms ongoing. How do you make the bridge between the macro needs and the needs of local communities? And how do you consult with the local communities?
Питання складне, тому що, як вже сьогодні ми говорили, що громадяни в Україні, вони знаходяться в постійному стресі, і цей стан, він не робить їх більш зацікавленими в процесі прийняття рішень і відновлення. Разом з тим ми працюємо над цим.
Thanks for the question, but this is a very complex question. Civil society in Ukraine, unfortunately, is facing this stress, constant stress. Civil society is under the stress. So it makes them less engaged in the decision-making process.
Разом з тим, ми працюємо з громадянським суспільством вже на етапі планування відновлення. Ті планувальні документи, які розробляються на рівні держави, регіону і громади, вони відповідно до українського законодавства проходять публічні обговорення.
But still we work with civil society at the planning stages of the recovery documents, for instance, at the regional level. So we're discussing with civil society.
На державному рівні закони і плани відновлення проходять за участю обговорення громадських організацій, експертів, партнерів. І це обговорення тривають, доки не приходимо до узгоджувальної позиції.
And the laws and planning, everything goes with the cooperation with the civil society organizations. We have open discussions with experts, with the partners, so civil society is engaged in those discussions.
Такий самий підхід на регіональному і місцевому рівні.
And we have the same approach at regional and local level.
Наразі громади формують свої середньострокові плани територій на 26 і 28 роки. Ці плани обговорюються з громадськістю.
And for the time being, the communities in Ukraine, they are discussing the planning for 2026, 2028, and those plans are discussed at the local level.
Таким чином, громадськість вже на етапі планування залучається до планувальних документів і для формування відновлення в своїх громадах.
So this ensures the involvement of civil society in the development of these documents, starting from the planning stages.
Дуже важливим моментом, який нам допомагає отримувати зворотній зв'язок з громадськістю, є розроблена ще в 2023 році. Це єдина інформаційна система управління відбудовою.
One more thing which helps us to receive the feedback from civil society, this is the developed in 2023, the joint system where people can provide the feedback.
За допомогою ресурсів цієї системи громадяни можуть бачити ті проекти відновлення, які зареєстровані в громаді і які потребують фінансування, які фінансуються, і як вони фінансуються, результати їх впровадження.
So this is a joint information system in which all the projects which are being implemented are available, so people can transparently see the stage of the project, the financial, the finance documents of the projects, and they can receive the feedback.
Таким чином ми отримуємо зворотній зв'язок і можемо завжди бачити ті коментарі і ті необхідні зміни, які нам необхідно зробити в покращенні нашого планування і реалізації.
And thanks to this system, we can receive the timely feedbacks, and then we can also improve the work of the projects.
І маємо амбітні цілі розробити окремий модуль на цій інформаційній платформі, який буде стосуватися суто громадянського суспільства.
And we have the ambition to develop also this separate model in this information sharing system, and it will be just for civil society.
Для того, щоб залучати громадян і надати їм можливість оцінювати проекти, голосувати за них, обговорювати планувальні документи і отримувати швидкий зворотній зв'язок через інформаційну систему.
And then this model will ensure that civil society can evaluate the project, they can have the possibility to vote for the projects, they can be part of the planning.
Шукаємо донорів, партнерів для розробки такого додаткового модулю і сподіваюсь, скоро він буде реалізований.
And in this stage we are looking for the support, of course, of the donors, and we are hoping that it will be implemented soon.
Thank you very much. It's impressive to hear how much you have systems in place and IT systems in place also for consultation. This is something that is still not that developed in Slovakia, for example. moving to the experience from an NGO representative herself. So, Ms. Kryzhanovska, can you say from your perspective how much you feel you can contribute to the bigger Ukraine recovery effort? What has been your experience?
First of all, as comment to all that was said till now, I have to say that the sense of urgency in Ukraine is still really high. So for the Ukrainian NGOs, we have to sometimes to be a bit, crazy. So we are, for example, about Promprylad, we are trying to be really active. So we are learning a lot. We are trying to understand what are the opportunities, what are the initiatives created for Ukraine, to learn about them. What are the initiatives or platforms created by our EU partners or other partners. For example, like 4 years ago, we haven't even known about existence of the new European Bauhaus initiative. And this year we got a prize of one of the best projects in Europe. So we are trying again to be really active, to learn a lot, to try to communicate proactively with the ministries. With the local authorities, we have really good relations already. So, and we, prioritize as the ministry. So we are trying to cooperate with Ministry of the Territories, with Ministry of Economy. We are trying to co-create initiatives, for example, like Skills Alliance, which is focused on the Ukrainian, retraining of Ukrainians mostly, which was already mentioned by the colleague. So that's why, again, we are trying to be very active on learning and understanding what are the existing and future opportunities for Ukrainian organizations and how our experience may be applicable for those initiatives, right? That the first point. The other point is that, again, because we are the project exist already like for more than 6 years, we are still on the stage of the renovation. So far, we renovated the 50% of the premises, but we have implemented already a lot of initiatives, a lot of the projects, and we have proven impact on the community development. So that's why sometimes we are even engaged, for example, by UNDP as a consultants for other regions who want to create, business support centers. Now we have the skills development program, which we've implemented. So we have the specific model, which we have already implemented in Ivano-Frankivsk. We now work with 2 other cities, and we are planning to scale to the eastern part of the country. And in this approach, we are trying again to be active, and we are trying to find somebody who will be ready to be as active in another community. For example, that's why we are working already with Mykolaiv, which is, southern city, very close to the front line, but they have a very active initiatives, who want to work more with the veterans, who want to work with the vocational trainings and so on. And we, for example, work with Poltava, which is in the sense of recovery process. So they suffer really a lot, especially during last half of the year, but they are not in the focus sometimes of international donors. So in Ukraine, we have the initiative where countries took the responsibility for the city or region recovery. So Poltava is in the southern part of the country, but nobody has seen that, so no country has taken responsibility. But there is extremely active business community, and they want to create a platform which will gather them together and start, this processes of transformation, of participatory transformation. So that's why, it's, we are trying to be active and identify those who are as crazy as we are to do what we want to do to create, the country which we want to live in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Remarkable craziness. Moving to the EU level, I was wondering, Ms. Višnar, Malinovská, how does the EU ensure with also its requirement of reforms that the recovery efforts are corresponding to the needs of the local communities? How do you envisage it in the design and setup of your tools and instruments? And maybe also a question to follow up from today's discussions: where do you see the role of INGOs versus local NGOs in this process?
Thank you very much. I'll start a little bit with terminology because it matters. European Union stands for, all member states and the European Union. I'm here from the Commission, so I represent somehow the sort of European interest, and I'm the sort of, grey civil servant of the European Commission that is not, selected based on national, provenience, but based on a fair, open competition. Just, to make this clear. So I can speak only on behalf of the European Commission and never on behalf of the European Union, because I would need a coordination with all 27 member states. All right, let me start with the role of NGOs with the recovery. Very, very important. But at the same time, as it was said already before by many panels, we have to rethink the way also the NGOs are being financed and supported. As you know, in the past, it has been very much, supported fully, operational budgets, and we want NGOs rather to be supported based on assignments and based on tasks and based on, their roles in the implementation. So that's very clear. How we work with NGOs on reforms? Well, first of all, if you look at the latest report of an institute, apparently well-known institute in Ukraine, what is the major threat for people? What do they perceive as the major threat? You would be surprised that war comes only as second. What comes as first is corruption. And this is unfortunately something Ukraine has been plagued with also in the past. So where we see a major role of NGOs is that we work a lot with the anti-corruption NGOs. And you may have seen this year in July when things got very hot. We have been very clear towards the Ukrainian leadership to revert the sort of speed of their intervention against the independence of anti-corruption bodies. And I think we collectively, and now I say, the world, we have succeeded. And it's also thanks to a very active NGOs who have been putting this very much upfront. On the Monday, when the vote was in Rada, we got bombarded by emails. We didn't have it on our radar, I must say, we didn't. But as soon as we were triggered, we have acted. We have mechanisms with NGO where the NGOs are offering always the shadow report on the implementation of rule of law, anti-corruption, democratic system, etc. So we have our own dialogue directly with the NGOs with their report coming up. On the investments and recovery, you would always say, okay, this is too big, infrastructural projects. No, you can have also small and beautiful social housing, social services, veteran center projects where you would have one part of the investment, it would be a so-called technical assistance or investment grant, where, an NGO or an implementing agency like GIZ, UNDP, or even, a local NGO, would they have the capacity, can help to structure, the preparation of the project and that the investment can come. So, but that, actually also means you need to a little bit transform the way, you NGOs work and specialize, have a little bit of the startup-based business perspective. On the local communities, I need to be very clear that we will not, as the European Commission, guide Ukraine where they have to rebuild and where not. The geographic choices will be national and local. This is not for the union to decide, but we will respect these choices. So where we, help is more on the priorities across sectors. Is it energy? Is it agriculture? Is it social services? Is it women's rights? Is it veteran center, etc.? But the geographic choices stay with Ukraine. And there we work together on establishing what is called now the sort of sectoral or local pipelines of projects, where we wish to see much more of linking with the strategic planning and who will be the sort of implementing partner and bring it to fruition. Again, a huge space for everybody who wants to be part of it. Platform of the Ukraine donors. This is where me as a person, I'm the sort of expert, and where we try to coordinate so that we don't have the cases you just mentioned, that Poltava is sort of blind spot for everybody, while everybody goes to Lviv because it's behind the border, it's very easy, it's very pleasant city, and sometimes it's more safe. So this is where we have also discussions with civil society, and I can tell you these discussions are extremely enlightening. Thank you very much for mentioning Horizon Europe. We need to help Ukraine to submit at least 2 pilots in the coming weeks to the Horizon Europe, competing with everybody else. And so I count very much also on creative businesses, NGOs to do that. So that's a little bit, where we create the conditions and where we try to sort of help Ukraine for the recovery. But let me make it very clear, it will be Ukraine's plan, Ukraine's priorities for the recovery, and we are there actually to help that the conditions are in place and that it can happen.
Thank you very much. And last entry before we open the floor for discussions before inputs from you. Ms. Janiszewska, as a Polish actor, where do you see your role as a CEE actor in supporting Ukraine's recovery and Ukraine civil society?
Well, I could actually sign up to what Elena just said. Like we always have to take into account Ukrainian strategies, Ukrainian documents, Ukrainian plans, and they are there or they are developed. So that's anyway one of the principles of good development cooperation, that you just don't take your goals out of the blue. So on one hand, we look at those national documents. On the other, when we work locally, then we ask local people. There's either research done, professional research done to see what are the needs locally, or we go to the local authorities, local governments, and work with them, or actually they do work on their needs and propose what is given. There's probably no other way. And yes, we do have to work. Like we it's not that we go there, we have our office and everything's done by us, by our staffers. We always cooperate with other entities at all levels. These are not always NGOs, depending on the project, on the agenda. When we work, for example, on firefighter brigades, as on the veteran support, these are local communities. We also work with local governments on the projects directly aimed at decentralization and, for example, preparation to absorption of European funds, and with schools for vocational training. But for example, those retreats for children from the near-front areas that I mentioned, they wouldn't be possible without local Ukrainian specialized nonprofits who are just grant takers, and they organize those camps. It's not us directly then.
Thank you very much. And again, showing the incredible strength of the Ukrainian civil society authorities to work on recovery efforts, expertise, and endurance. Good. For questions from the public, are there any questions from the public? Yes? We have like 10 minutes, I think, because we started 10 minutes later, so.
Sorry, I'm just afraid that we need to make the final speech here. That's why, but it's good that we have questions. Question to Ms. Elena. You told about what NGO can do in Ukraine recovery, but what do you think about the communication work of Ukrainian NGO? Because now I see that I work in European Climate Foundation like a comms lead, and also I am a co-founder of the media NGO in Ukraine. And I see that now the situation is terrible, absolutely, because a lot of journalists came from the profession, people go to Telegram, they became victim of Russian propaganda. And when we have, now we need to scale up such story like Promprylad, for example, tell about this, tell about different hospitals that install solar system, and more this positive information. And I think that this is important, and this is something that we need to do more, work with the media NGO, work with the communication. Yeah, thanks. What do you think about this part of work?
Thank you very much. That's a lovely question, I must say. You probably know very well that 25% of the territory of Ukraine is what we call the information desert. It means that there's no local newspapers or newspapers covered. It's more or less people are indeed being obliged to turn to Telegram, to TikToks, etc. Which means that this is where the propaganda also comes. And this is also the sector that has been completely derelict by the US aid. This has been completely abandoned, and we indeed see also, in the occupied territories, there are at least 26 journalists I'm aware of that have been, in prison, tortured, etc. So the situation is really, really, really horrible. Now, what we are trying to do is probably drop in the ocean. We indeed provide funding. As a matter of fact, in the last decade, at least 100 million euro went to the media sector in Ukraine. We also see a huge change, in comparison with other countries. The media landscape has changed. In the 90s, early 2000, in the media sector, you would have like newspapers of oligarchs, turning their own speaking points, while now we have very trustful public, broadcasters or public newspapers. And that's why we focus our attention to Suspilne, for instance, or to more of these public sphere. Where we have been critical as the institution is the telemarathon, or how it's called, teleton, apologies if I pronounce it wrongly, which is a sort of government program with news, which seem to be, let's say, tilted towards a certain side as opposed to the other side. So if you would go into the enlargement reports, this is a picture we provide every year for Ukraine. This year it will be on the 4th of November. It's a picture, but since its third year, you will have a movie. And we have been always sort of a critical voice of this particular program. We have been always clear as to the need of support to the public broadcaster, as to the need to avoid, too much intrusion into the media space also by the government. So just to say, we are very well aware of the situation that is out there. We try to help, but this is not something that will necessarily revert the situation. And where I start to be extremely concerned, or I'm concerned already for a couple of months, is should there be in the future elections, and we have seen just elections in Moldova, and I can tell you we have deployed massive resources also as the European Union, as the European Commission, with help of our member states. So should we have this situation also in Ukraine, it will be, really in comparison with Moldova, with all the interference we have seen, with all the sort of attacks, false narratives, etc. You just need to multiply it, thousands time to Ukraine. And there, if we don't have a healthy media space, it will be very difficult to have a fair campaign in such a state. So indeed, very much under our watch, but not something we can, work out rapidly given the underlying conditions.
Thank you. Another question from the public.
Hi, thank you so much, first of all, for all your work and incredible insights of what's needed in Ukraine right now. My question will be also to you as European Commission is a part of Skill Alliance, and I think some of you mentioned it briefly today. My question would be more about how is it going in terms of practical things, and do you work somehow with the upskilling programs maybe, or trainings or education opportunities for Ukrainians who are outside of Ukraine with refugee status in European Union countries especially, and who are you cooperating with, and what is the long-term plan in terms of this? Thank you.
Your question is more for the Ukraine diaspora in the European Union, correct? Or do you want to know how do we work in Ukraine? Because these are two different
These
topics.
are different, yeah. I was thinking more about Ukrainians outside of Ukraine.
Okay.
Because it was, as I remember, this alliance was, this initiative was built together with the countries who hosted a lot of refugees. So I imagine that somehow it should be still continuing some work for people in these countries. And usually it's a lot of teenagers and young people who are based right now outside of Ukraine, but still maybe following the Ukrainian curriculum and planning to go back to Ukraine, or it's at least having the education here, or pursuing academic, skills in the European Union.
Okay. First of all, what happens now is that Ukrainians in the European Union are covered by temporary protection. And you should know this is almost a golden standard. I live in Belgium. It's an administrative, complicated country, but I can tell you the way the process was run in terms of issuing the permit, getting insurance, getting children integrated into the school. For me, that was like, wow, I have a family that I'm hosting now for almost 4 years at my place. So I have been accompanying them in these administrative procedures. Now, what it means is, with the temporary protection, is that you have access to the labor market. Ukrainians have access to the labor market if they are qualified, of course. And it's not, it has never been easy. We have seen in our countries, probably Poland, but also, Slovakia, you have seen former nurses doing, cleaning ladies, but then reskilling, etc. So that's not a situation that was completely new to our countries as a result of the full-scale invasion. There has been this move towards the West, as much as I can, remember from the 80s and from the 90s. So Ukrainians have access to the labor market. They have access to any sort of reskilling programs. Now, the major barrier seems sometimes to be the language one, but even the social support. And Germany is a very nice example of it, because you have a lot of Ukraine diaspora. I'm told that we cannot use the refugees, so allow me to, Ukraine diaspora, but they simply sometimes consider it better to get the social support instead of going sometimes for a sort of lower paid jobs. Now the situation will change because the last prolongation, and its very last prolongation, is until March 2027. After that, it's for the member states to start integrating Ukrainians. Either they give them access to the single permitting, they, make them fully, sort of the citizens, etc. But this will be a time of truth, if I may say so, also for Ukrainians. That's why I'm really calling on Ukraine diaspora that wants to stay in the European Union member states. Please make sure you have job by March 2027. Because what will happen, and I have seen it already because I'm trying to sometimes coordinate the accommodation in Brussels, as soon as Italians started cutting, the social allowance, people started moving towards countries that still allow it, aka Belgium, and so this will at some point, it will go to a halt. And by that time, if you want to stay in Ukraine, better to be in the labor market, because then you will not have access to asylum, or you should not apply to asylum. You should rather see whether you have to return or, you are temporarily unemployed, etc. So since there is such a time, ahead, it's still 1.5 years. I'm saying to every Ukrainian I meet, please make sure that you are part of the labor market of the country where you want to continue your life. I'm not sure I responded exactly to your question, but hopefully I clarified the status of Ukrainians in the EU.
Thank you very much. The organizers, the master is already showing me the time is off, but also Ms. Kryzhanovska signaled me, so very, very short question so that I don't answer.
I have a very brief comment on what you asked, because we are co-founders of the Skills Alliance, and last week we had a third coordination meeting. So I believe in coming days the public report will be available, because yes, a lot of Ukrainians are already reskilled in Ukraine and out of Ukraine. Regarding the point which you asked also about bringing back youth, I think we have to do a lot of homework before it happened. And I think that for a lot of people, it has to become much safer than it is now. So they will, have those decisions to come back. So, but, again, on the website of the Skills Alliance, you will find all the information in the coming days.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the panelists for showcasing examples of incredible dedication, commitment, resilience, and strength. And also to echo one of the comments that came through Slido. We here in CE, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of all people here, will stand to support you as long as it's needed. So thank you very much. I'm handing over.
Thank you very much. I'm really sorry that we have to cut off such a wonderful ladies panel, but unfortunately the time has run up, and Ambrela Development Forum 2025 is heading to an end. I hope that all of you had a wonderful, interesting and productive day full of interesting and inspirational discussions and networking. Let me thank once again to our strategic partners, Central European Initiative, United Nations Development Programme, Slovak Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs, Program Slovensko, co-financed by the European Union, representation of European Commission in Slovakia, British Embassy to Slovakia, and Embassy of Canada to Slovakia. Then I also would like to express our gratitude to our partners, Faculty of Arts, Comenius University, People in Need, Polish Humanitarian Action, Otvorená hra, Institute for Public Affairs, Inclusion Systems, GmbH, and our media partner, Euractiv.sk. Let me also ask our distinguished guests for closing remarks. First, I would like to invite to join me on the stage Anna Plassat Muríňová, Director of Department for Development Cooperation and Humanitarian Aid, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Slovak Republic. Please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon or good evening already. As it was said, and thank you very much, my name is Anna Plassat Muríňová. I'm the old new Director for the Development Cooperation and Humanitarian Assistance at the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs, distinguished participants of this Ambrela Development Forum. It is really a great honor for me, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity given by Daniel and by Ambrela to give this closing speech of this forum, which I really consider as a great success. And it is with pride that I can really say that Ambrela Development Forum has become, over the years, a really unique space where different actors meet, exchange, but not only that, but they can really co-create solutions to the current challenges. Ambrela, with its individual partners, but also with other civil society organizations, has been really crucial, indispensable partner of the Slovak development cooperation. And to be really honest, without their very early work and strong commitment, our transformation from the recipient of the ODA to the donor, which was in 2003, would have been much, much more difficult. So we have really built our development cooperation system on the groundwork of the Slovak NGOs that they had laid down in our partner countries. And so it's very natural that we continue to rely on their expertise, and we are very committed to continue our work, not only in delivering individual humanitarian or development interventions, but also in co-designing our strategies, and we really plan on doing so also in the near future. It's been mentioned in all the discussions, and this is also the leitmotif of this forum, that we are meeting in a very complex times with a lot of conflicts, interrelated crises. We talked a lot about the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, but also climate change, polarization of societies, fight or competition on a global scale. And this all, I would say, are calls for reforms on a global level. And they force us really to rethink how we work also in our development cooperation sector. And this happens, all these discussions are already ongoing. We talked about a humanitarian reset. You know that, for example, at the OECD, there is an ongoing reform of the Development Assistance Committee that tries to be more transparent and more responsive to the concrete needs, the local needs. And Slovakia has, the last month, concluded its second peer review assessment, where the whole development cooperation system has been evaluated, and we received very valuable recommendations that we are strongly committed to implement. And they already address these challenges that we've been today talking about. And I will mention maybe only 3 areas where we would like to put our focus, especially in the month to come. First would be to really sharpen our focus of our development interventions and humanitarian assistance through strategic partnerships, but also working more closely with local actors, so that the support that we provide is really targeted and relevant and can really respond to the needs. Slovakia, but also the countries that are, of course, in this region, we are very well positioned to respond to the evolving needs of the wider neighborhood, being through our shared historical experience or also our understanding of the culture. So we remain very committed to continue with sharing this expertise. And this is very much true, especially for Ukraine, which has become since February 2022 the biggest recipient of our ODA. And we have created, I would say, the most robust system of development support that we are delivering in Ukraine through different instruments, but also in cooperation with different actors, including with the European Union through different global gateway initiatives. And you know that tomorrow there will be already a third meeting of the Ukrainian and Slovak government taking place, and we are planning to pledge even more support during that meeting. So no fatigue on our side. To the contrary, we are trying to build more and more robust support for our neighbor. Second area, I would say, would be the humanitarian assistance, and you had panel also addressing this topic. In Slovakia, there would be two streams, and we really need to modernize the current system of providing humanitarian assistance. First, it would be to modernize our mechanism for delivering in-kind humanitarian assistance, and then we would like to establish a new rapid response mechanism that would really be able to respond to new emerging challenges, and we very much count on Ambrela and its members to help us in devising and in drafting this new strategy. And last but not least, as a big challenge is, of course, the pressure that we feel on our budgets because of different kind of competing priorities, of course. This is not only case for Slovakia, but of course also globally, as the SDG financing gap is still growing. So what we are trying to do is to use the ODA as a catalyst also for private financing. We are trying to mobilize our private sector, reach out to them, raise their awareness about development opportunities, and also try to create frameworks, and again, hopefully also with Ambrela, so that they can find places where they can work together. So in conclusions, listening to different discussions, I would say maybe the most or the biggest challenge is sometimes our own adaptability, because sometimes we tend to look at different challenges, let's say from a negative angle or very critically, which is good because it really forces us to think, it mobilizes us, it forces us to step out of our comfort zone. And if we look at these changes with a positive perspective as an opportunity that leads to situations like this, where we really forge innovative partnerships and we find new models of cooperation. So thank you very much, Ambrela. Thank you very much, Danielle, really for creating this platform, this forum, this space where we can share and where we can co-create. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to ask for the very last words, Mr. Allan Bussard, Director of Integra, which is a humanitarian and development agency with partners and operations in Ukraine, East Africa, and the Middle East.
Thank you to Daniel and his team. Daniel's gone. Oh, there he is. Well done. I'm not able to summarize all that was said today, many great words, but I want to leave you with a passing thought. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Cape Town at the annual meeting of the Integra Alliance, which is a group of 21 development agencies that are committed to working together for rapid response in humanitarian crises around the world. Within this alliance, we have seen total income available for humanitarian response drop from 800 million euros in 2024 to 500 million in 2025. 2026 will be, again, a big drop. One of our colleagues, who is the director of MEDAIR, one of our partner agencies, she said, "We didn't create the storm, but it's our job to navigate through the storm." And I think that's true for all of us in this room. Some of you will be too young to remember this, but in the year AD 57, there was a serious famine in Jerusalem and the surrounding areas. So St. Paul went to Turkey, went to Greece to raise money for famine relief. He was quite successful, delivered it in a transparent manner, and helped preserve life among those that were afflicted by famine in what was otherwise quite a forgotten and dusty part of the Roman Empire. I'm unable to determine whether St. Paul was successful in raising any disaster response funds from DG ECHO, nor did I find any reference of even an appeal made to UN OCHA or USAID. Perhaps the standards or the accreditation process was too demanding. The systems that we've put in place, which Hugo very excellently described today, were developed within my lifetime. I'm old, but not that old. Post-World War II, USAID was started by President Kennedy in 1961. But global solidarity was not invented 50 years ago, as we see from this story of the collection for the famine in Jerusalem. And it will not die due to the current crisis in our sector, because global solidarity is part of what it means to be human. Václav Havel said that hope is not the certainty that things will turn out well. Rather, hope is the certainty that something makes sense, regardless of how it turns out. So we live in a world filled with pain. In many ways, it's a broken world. But together, we can help mitigate some of the pain of living in this broken world. We can have a certainty that what we are doing makes sense. And so, let us not lose hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all of you who stayed with us until this hour. If you are still in the mood to continue, I would like to say once again that you are very warmly invited to join us at Night Owl session, which will take place in Umelka Pub, which is just nearby. It starts at 9 o'clock, and I'm sure that you will enjoy that informal atmosphere, maybe with a glass of wine or beer to continue with your discussions or networking. And right now, I get the pleasure to invite you for the reception, where you also can take a look at the photo exhibition of Spanish photojournalist Albert Lor, who is based in Kyiv since 2017. So have a very nice evening, and I'm looking forward to see you, all of you, again next year. Bye-bye.